I want to start with announcements, introductions. I know this has happened in a number of settings, including yesterday in the Senate, but I think this is another good opportunity to introduce, first of all, Dr. Gloria Harrison, who's our new Dean of the School of Health Sciences, Human Services, and Nursing. She began as the term began last week, and she comes to us most recently from the College of Agriculture, Urban Sustainability, and Environmental Sciences at the University of the District of Columbia in Washington, D.C. She is an educator, an academic leader, and a clinician with 25 years of experience, both in academics and in practicing in the healthcare professions. So we're very happy to have her joining us at Lehman College this term. Also, not an introduction really, but introduction, I suppose, in a new role, which is even confusing in its title. But Dr. Pam Mills, who has been the interim dean of Natural and Social Sciences, is now the permanent dean of the School of Natural and Social Sciences. But she still holds the title of interim dean because the Board of Trustees of the university is currently only making interim dean appointments. So at some point that will shift, but happy to welcome Dr. Mills in this new role. And some of you may know, others don't, that she was formerly the chair of chemistry. She's been the interim dean for a little over 2 years at Lehman College of NSS, and very happy to have her continuing on in that role. Also, Dr. Serene Ying, who is the interim associate dean of education and now is the executive in charge of the School of Education. As that search is going on for a dean, he has very graciously agreed to take on that role. Thank you very much, Serene, for doing that and for continuing or helping with the ongoing work of the School of Education. There's no budget update that I can give you. Nothing has really changed since our last briefing and or since one of the last meetings that you may have attended. The only thing that we know is that there's been no action in the Congress, and some who have a more dire view of how this may play out politically feel that there may not be any action coming before the election. So we'll see. We are going on a month-to-month budget with the university, but it's possible that as this looks more like our condition for the coming months, perhaps the university's Board of Trustees will find a way to move us on to a little more certainty with regard to our budget. We're halfway, well, not quite, but we're approaching halfway through the fiscal year. And so what that means is that it becomes more and more difficult with less and less time remaining in a fiscal year to make adjustments. So we don't know, but we'll see. Just a word of enrollment. Kudos and thanks to the whole enrollment management team and Vice President Sarmiento, who are reporting right now that we are at 99% of our enrollment target for the fall term. And our FTE enrollment is actually 102% above target, which means that students are mostly enrolling for a larger number of classes, larger number of credits. And that's a very good thing. And we have a record freshman enrollment. Our target was 978, and we actually have 1,341 freshmen enrolled, and that's 137% above target. The place where we are down is with transfer students. Our current enrollment is down about around 10%. And but then again, graduate enrollment, where we had a target of 2148, it's actually at 2261, so 105% of the target. So on the whole, our enrollment is very strong, and we're really grateful for that because we had so much that was unknown about what the fall term would look like. Now we're getting a much clearer picture of what it looks like, and it's a good picture. So thank you to the whole enrollment management team and others who have contributed to that really robust enrollment. We are in the term, and we are now a week into also the new plan that is on the website for how we are opening the campus. And again, reopening is in quotes because we really always have been open, and we are still maintaining control of access to the campus. Can't just walk through the gates. So to know the details of that plan, go to the website and you can see them all there. They will change. It's going to be a dynamic plan that will change as our own circumstances at Lehman College change, or as things change that are different in New York City or the New York or the region that might change the way we're handling access to the campus. The app that we're using, which is a health screening app, which is used before you come to campus, is called Everbridge. And that is now being used. Over 10,000 people across CUNY have used that app so far. And it has 5 basic questions. And when you answer those questions, it will tell you whether you are good to come to campus or not. Just remember that you only can come onto the campus if you have an approved appointment, which you work out if you're staff or faculty with your chair or division head or supervisor, or if you're a student, if you have a class that meets during the time when you plan to come. But every time you come, you need to use the Everbridge app. And when you're on campus, remember it's face masks all the time and worn appropriately over the nose and mouth and down under the chin. So please, let's all work really hard to sustain that, because that's how we're going to protect each other and protect our campus. I want to remind everyone again of the 2020 census. We have right now until the end of September to complete it. The Bronx in particular is way under responded in terms of the census. Remind everybody that you know who hasn't done it to do it. It doesn't take very long. It just takes a few minutes. It is not a risk to undocumented individuals. Everyone needs to be counted, including the babies. Also, early voting is now possible to request an absentee ballot for early voting. And you should do that if you are not willing to take the risk of voting in person, and you can do that now. And so with that, I would like to ask Provost Nwosu if he has any updates that he would like to give the campus.
Thank you, President Lemons. Good afternoon, everyone. I do want to join the President in welcoming all of you to this week's briefing. This is the second week of the semester, as the President mentioned, and I also like to join him in welcoming Dr. Harrison, in welcoming Dr. Mills and Dr. Ninge for their new roles in our 3 schools. I do want to take a moment as well to thank Dr. Elin Warren, as well as Dr. Guyan Kian for their leadership as interim deans of their various schools respectively. They have done some work over the last 2 years, managing those 2 schools. So thank you for your service to the college. The President has provided some update on enrollment. I want to add to that data point and some additional exciting news in that regard. Next slide. These are our numbers as of last evening. I know those numbers keep changing when we provide additional report next week. My sense is that we will be inching closer to our target that you see on the left column of the screen, which is 15,543 students. We've actually exceeded the FTE goal that the President mentioned, so this is very good news for all of us. You will notice equally on the right-hand column, this is the one that we're tracking, which is the graduate enrollment, which stands today at a 7% increase compared to where we were last year. So this is very, very good news for the campus. And this number includes 12 new doctoral students to our nursing program, the DNP, that we launched the doctorate in nursing practice that we launched this fall. Last week when I presented information, we did not have that number, but we do have 12 students who have enrolled in that program, which is very, very good news for us. So again, I want to thank everyone who's worked very hard to get us to where we are. If you look at the next slide, you will see additional information in terms of where we are overall. If we add college now, you'll notice that we're getting much closer to our target, and we will be able to provide additional information as we get to next week. What I want to actually spend some time, just a few minutes on the next slide, to thank the faculty members who have actually worked very, very closely with enrollment management in advancing our graduate enrollment goals. The president did provide some funding last year, which we invested. This is actually the first time in a long time we invested about $100,000 in graduate marketing, and we involved 16 different graduate programs at the college. And they worked very closely with our team in our Office of Enrollment Management. And that's, of course, is what has helped us with the progress we've made with regard to the growth in graduate enrollment. At some point next week, or when we have the final numbers by school and by programs, I will be able to provide that to you so you can see the significant increase in those numbers. I want to thank Takia Ali, Valerie Brown in our Graduate Studies and Graduate Admissions Office. In terms of our program directors, Professor Danielle Tegeda, Professor Linda Tober, Professor Shelley Bishop, Professor Cecilia Espinosa, Professor Amanda Gula, Professor David Hyman, Professor Brad Schoenfeld, Professor Craig Demer, Professor Tim Alborn, Professor Limor Pinhasi Vittorio, Professor Cecilia Cruz, Professor Janet DeSimone, Professor Wesley Pitts, Professor Daniel Stockart, Professor Adam Euro, and Professor Marco Ramirez. I thought it was important to really thank them individually and mention their names. And oftentimes we sometimes don't acknowledge the work that our colleagues put into this, in making sure this works. Processing applications on time, responding to students on time, working very closely with enrollment management. Without that kind of attention to details, we will not have had the opportunity to make the progress we have made this semester. And I look forward to that work continuing across the 16 programs, but also across our other programs at the college as we plan for fall 2021. So thank you everyone who has worked very hard to ensure the progress we've made in this direction. Our next slide, you will see how we compare to other senior colleges. The president mentioned some of those as well, but I wanted to share with you in terms of overall headcount enrollment, we rank third after Baruch and Hunter. This is as of yesterday's data. Undergraduate, we're fourth after Hunter, Brooklyn, and Baruch. All graduate students, which is what I just mentioned, we rank number 3 after Baruch and York College. And in terms of freshman enrollment, which the president just mentioned, we ranked number 1 with 40.4% increase from what we had last year, followed by Queens and Brooklyn. And transfer, we ranked number 3 after Hunter and Baruch, even though we've had some decline here, but the decline is not just with us, but also across all of our campuses across CUNY. And then for new grad students, we ranked second after Baruch. So this is really progress, and we will continue to work as we have worked this past year to ensure that the progress we have made, that momentum continues. So thank you to everyone who have worked on this. Mr. President, I hand this back to you.
Thank you, Provost Nwosu. Great to see those numbers. And I'll add my thanks to all of those who helped with getting those admissions up, because that's a really significant development, and those are big increases. So thank you all. One thing I wonder, Provost, if you could respond. There's a question, instead of leaving this until we get to the Q&A part of the briefing, maybe you can respond to this. Now, there's a question about the position of Vice President for Student Affairs. And I don't know if there's anything that you could say about that.
Yes, yes, we, as everyone knows, we did conclude the search process. We had 4 candidates who came to the college a few weeks ago. We are now at the point where we're finalizing a recommendation to CUNY. And once that happens and the approval happens, then we will share that with the campus community. In the past, we didn't have to go through CUNY to do this. But given where we are with the hiring freeze, there's a new process put in place, and that will require us getting that approval. And once we have those, we will share with the campus community. But we're making progress, and it won't be long before we share that information with the campus.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And before we move on I want to also add my thanks to Ellen Waring, Professor Waring, who was interim dean for 2 years and did a really terrific job in that role. So thank you, Elin, and also to Dean Kien, who was the interim dean in education, who also did a terrific job of keeping the School of Education on course for the last 2 years. We rely so much on the goodwill and hard work and the willingness of individuals within the college to step forward and take these positions when they need to have someone in them. And these are 2 really stellar examples of that having happened. And for that reason, those schools have been able to continue moving forward. So thank you to both of you. Now I'd like to ask Vice President Rotolo if there's anything, by the way of update, that you would like to give us.
So unfortunately, as you previously said, President Lemons, we do not have a budget. We're going month to month. There's no new news on the budget front, and they don't anticipate having additional news in the very near future at all. They're still waiting on a stimulus, which doesn't seem to be coming. Other than that, we've had a very quiet start to the semester, which is nice. In fact, as you mentioned too, that our plans are alive, and there's been some changes to the plans already, so I'll need to send an update. I'm just back from vacation, so I have to do that next update. But we had one group from the theater department that were on campus. They were outside for their program. Went very well, no issues, no problems. But for the most part, no one else has been on yet. So once we have more information, we'll let you know next week.
Great. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
And so now I'd like to welcome Dean Bazile, who is going to, I asked him to come today because we're starting the term again, and we have lots and lots of concerns and aspects to serving our students. So Dean Bazile, what would you like to present to us?
Afternoon, President Lemons, and everybody on the panel. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm really excited to share some of the great news that we've been doing at the college. I want to first say welcome back our students and let them know that we miss them dearly. We're with you. We haven't forgotten about you, and we look forward to seeing you in person. Obviously, our students, when they registered to be at Lehman, they expected to be on campus, not to be virtual. They expected to be engaged. They wanted to be a part of this great institution. They still are. And so we've worked really closely with various partners on campus, faculty, staff, and more importantly, the students, student leaders, getting their feedback in terms of what is life like now in the COVID era? What are your needs? How can we support you? How can we fully engage you? And so a lot of what we've been doing since we've gone remote is directly in partnership with students and their feedback. So I want to go through some of the things that our students are facing and how we're meeting their needs. Obviously, one of the main issues is engagement. How do they engage with a campus virtually when they wanted to be in person? The Campus Life team and a number of different offices within the various different divisions have done an excellent job. But I want to highlight, there's been some emails that have been sent out. I will be sending some emails. I've asked all my directors within student affairs to send welcome back emails that highlight all of the different events that will be happening virtually. Now, we do know that there's a saying that students have, and I've heard a student tell me this once and I've never forgotten it. He told me, Dean, we don't meet unless we eat, right? And so, we've come up with an innovative way in terms of enticing students to participate in activities. So one, if a student registers for an event, upon registering for an event and attending that event, a meal voucher or a food card will be sent to that student. We know that the student registers for the event because they want to be engaged. They want to participate in co-curricular activities. And at the same time, we do know that getting sustenance is also an encouragement. And so those are some of the innovative things that we're working on. We're in the final stages of finalizing that. And I want to thank SGA and the student leadership for working very closely with doing this for us. Another big thing that the provost and the president have also mentioned is the mental health and wellness issue that our students have been facing. I think I speak for everybody when I say it's been a difficult time for us. Some of our students previously had mental health issues. COVID has only exacerbated it. Some of our students didn't have mental health issues, but now they're dealing with depression and they're dealing with anxiety, not knowing what the certainties are going to be. And so we've really been working really closely with the folks, the practitioners in the health center, in the counseling center to provide telehealth. What does that mean? Students can call in, students can Zoom, and they can engage with counselors throughout the whole entire semester. We have flexible hours, so students have that opportunity to unpack things that are going on in their lives. Food insecurity is also an important thing. We started a food insecurity task force. We've done a great job in terms of securing partners internally and externally. Special thanks to the faculty members and the administrators who've donated to the foundation's office, which have helped to contribute to funds within that go towards food bags, supermarket cards, virtual gift cards to meet the students' needs. We've also launched a basic needs center, which is virtual. Now more than ever, we know that the students need this. In this basic needs center, there are grants that will help with housing. Many of our students are housing insecure, help with bills, health bills. But even more so, one of the things that we're really excited about is the partnership that we have engaged with the social work department. Special thanks to the department chair, Dr. Carl Maza, who has provided 3 social work interns. And what are those social work interns going to do? So oftentimes when students submit an application and are asking for grants, we know that that's just the beginning of the conversation. There are so many different other elements that build off of that. It's the gateway into, there's also other things that are happening. So these social work interns will be doing follow-up appointments with students, asking them from a wellness standpoint, what do you need? Is there anything else? Is there any gaps? Are there any things that we need to know? And upon that, we'll be directing them to proper services. They will also serve as a triage for the counseling center. Lastly, I want to talk about the Social Justice Lounge that we're very excited to be launching that's coming out of the Basic Needs Center. Why is this important? We know that we have seen images over the last couple of months that we can't forget. We've seen the death of George Floyd, Jacob Blake, and other individuals for a variety of different reasons. We've seen this pandemic of non-acceptance, which is not in accordance with the philosophy and the environment that Lehman strives to uphold. And so the Social Justice Lounge is going to be in partnership with faculty members, with administrators who are trained to create a safe space where students can unpack some of the trauma that they haven't been able to deal with. It provides them an opportunity to sit down and talk about it. Because again, if we don't address this as a person who comes from as a behavioral science background, if we don't address this, how do we expect our students to move forward? So again, Mr. President and the Provost, these are just some of the issues that we've seen. We've worked very closely with students through, as I said, through surveys, through focus groups, and they've said this is what they need. And we are not going to let them down without responding to their needs and meeting them where they are. Lastly, before I forget, as was mentioned before, I'm excited to let folks know that we do have hotspots available to students as it relates to Wi-Fi access. Some of them are already on campus, and we expect for them to go out relatively soon. One important note is that the university had done a survey where they estimated about 6,000 students needed Wi-Fi access. 4,000 were purchased, and the university allocated some to Lehman. Based off of the formula that we used, certain administrators realized that there was still a gap. And under the leadership of the president and provost, we decided that we were not comfortable with having that gap. And so now we've been working very closely to allocate funds to purchase additional Wi-Fi devices that will go out to students in need. When I last checked the form, we had over 400 students that had applied. You can access that form on the Lehman College website under the COVID-19 link. So again, I'm very excited and proud to be a member of the Lehman family where students express what their needs are and we address them. Mr. President and Provost, that is my report.
Thank you, Stanley. It's great to hear about all of that and all the work that's being done. And just to second what you said, because getting hotspots to students is really critical at this early stage of the term, we definitely want to get the word out that if there are students that are having a challenge getting broadband access, that we really want to get these to them as soon as possible. So we'll move now to questions that are being posted. There's a question about particularly new students who are coming in, what kind of extra support may be available to them if they're have a challenge with either getting to their Lehman email, getting access to Blackboard. And one of the things that it would be great if we could do is have augmented our staff, knowing that we're going to have probably more of those kinds of issues, being over 98% online with our courses. We haven't been able to do that because of the budget and the hiring freeze that we're dealing with. But I think our IT staff and the help desk have been doing a pretty good job of responding to students, and that's definitely a first place to look for help for new students. It is sort of a bootstrapping problem, right? To begin to get your first access, to get email so that you get information about the other things that you need. So you do need to kind of get to that step so that you can access everything else, including Blackboard. But the help desk is definitely one of the places that students can go. But Dean Bazile or the Provost, do you have other responses to that, other suggestions for particularly new students who are maybe struggling to get access to these basic tools that they need?
I did send, and I've asked my staff to resend that. And just what we did at the beginning, 3 weeks prior, perhaps more, so before the semester began, I did send multiple, there were actually 2 types of messages. One was on how to study in an online environment. And the other one was how to access the Blackboard and how to use those. And there are tutorials on those. And so that message, the way it was sequenced was that every Tuesday went out to students, but we also had additional technology resources and that I sent to them on a Thursday. I've asked my office to resend those. And they're pretty very short messages with links to how to study in an online environment, including resources that we developed from our online office, as well as resources from the Graduate Center at CUNY, and the Macaulay College, so, because they have very excellent tools that they have also developed, and we shared that with our students. We'll continue to share that. And I've asked my staff to send that out again today so that we will keep reminding them. I realize that we have to do this regularly, even for students who may not have seen that email, and they may have just be reminded that there are those resources. How to use the Blackboard, as well. It's part of that. There's a tutorial from IT that I have also sent to them. And Stanley can add to that as well in terms of additional steps we've taken to ensure that they are reached. I did see Professor Zach's question, and that also prompted us that we need to keep reminding students of where these resources are.
Yeah, I want to echo the sentiments of the provost. I think we have been very intentional about sending resources to students. I think we joke that sometimes we send out a lot of emails, but we're trying to be very coordinated in terms of when we send them out. But the message is consistent, where each office knows, whether you're in academic affairs, student affairs, enrollment management, or any area on the campus, to know what the resources are or who to point people are. I do want to mention one important factor. We are getting some students who have talked about they miss being on campus, miss being in a library to study. The campus is not open, but we do know one of the benefits of New York handling the COVID epidemic better than most states is that now the public libraries are open. We are encouraging students to, when possible, if they feel comfortable, that they can go there as well. We've gotten feedback from students who said during the spring semester it was difficult to study, where some students told us they studied or they completed their exams in a closet or in a bathroom. We don't want that to happen. So if the public library is a place that's nearby you and you do feel comfortable, they are open. It's important to check those out, and hopefully at some point the campus will be reopened and we'll have you there. But these are resources that we also mention to students when we engage with them about what's available to them, what assistance we can provide to them, and what external partners exist.
Thank you both. And again, just to remind everyone, a place to direct students are the kind of gateway pages that are on the college website that really point to all kinds of resources that are available. And we keep updating and adding to those, but they are, when I look at them, they look like a very good kind of a way to quickly identify where there are resources that or trainings or other things that are really important right now for students. There's a question came in, which is actually one I hadn't really thought about, that has to do with the President's executive action, executive order on Social Security tax and the deferment of Social Security tax for 4 months, and whether the university is participating in that. And I actually don't know. I don't know, Vice President Rotolo, if you know whether that's the case or not. I mean, the question points out, which is one way or another was very important to know, is that it's not a forgiveness of the tax. The tax comes due. It's got to be paid by 2021. It's essentially adding a debt that's going to come due in 2021 if that option were available. But Vice President Rotolo, do you know anything about, I haven't heard a word about that.
No. It was not mentioned at Administrative Council this past Monday either, so I don't know that CUNY is even considering it.
Yeah, that's my sense, is that it hasn't been considered at this point anyway. So there's another question here which has to do with the hotspots. Are those going to be available for faculty or staff? And I think that, what we would say at this point about that is we are targeting students. We really want to make sure that students have these hotspots, knowing that that's where the acute need is. And what we have done with faculty and staff is where there are needs, we've really worked to make sure that faculty and staff do have the resources that they need. And the provost has talked before about the technology upgrade program that has taken place. So we have tried to address that. And I think that's one that we'll have to see as we get down the road, how well we're able to take care of students and how the resources are. But at this point, that program with the MiFi hotspots is targeted to students. So pausing briefly to see if there are any other questions that are coming up. We don't have any open questions, I think, at the moment. But we'll give it we'll pause for a minute and see before we decide that we've satisfied everybody's questions. And that hardly ever seems possible, but maybe that's the case.
That someone has a hand raised. If that person could type your question into the Q&A function, that'd be great.
Great, yeah. Maybe it's the impending long weekend. Hopefully, we've all got some kind of plans to take advantage of that extra day this weekend. So it looks like we don't have other questions coming in. So I think that even though we're early on this session, we will we'll decide to call it an afternoon unless there's any other anything else that Dean Bazile, Vice President Rotolo, Provost Nwosu, if you would like to add before we end our session.
I would just wish everybody a wonderful long weekend. Good luck with this semester. We're off to a good start. And I look forward to the day we can return to campus.
I would just simply add to that by echoing the comments I've made in the past to a number of platforms, including this one, to keep in mind that we're all in this together. And that there is no script for this that we have had to follow. This is all new for all of us. And consequently, we're challenged and it raises all kinds of emotional issues and there will be opportunities when mistakes will be made, but keep in mind the good intention of everyone working towards ensuring that we meet our mission as an institution and we serve our students. That's really very, very important as we engage in this process. Be kind to each other, be flexible with our students as they navigate the experience, as we all also are navigating that experience. You will have lots and lots of communication from administration, from the central office. Sometimes they're all good, well-intended, but they sometimes will look like overload. But remember, we're all doing our best as our chairs and faculty and staff, everyone working very hard to ensure that we sustain and maintain our institutions. So I want to thank everyone and wish you all a very, very restful, long holiday weekend.
Thank you. So with that, I'll just add, again, my wishes for a great weekend. And we'll see you all back next week, hopefully.
Thank you.